So this is my first woodworking vise. Didn't see that coming, did you? Well, this was honestly it for about the first year I was studying the craft. And, it's not bad. It holds things securely, and I got some of the basics down. And, I come from a really mechanical family. There were tools around all the time, but I had really never seen a woodworking-specific vise growing up. I thought all vices looked like this. And I know what you're thinking. God, Rex, what were you, raised by wolves? No, much worse. Auto mechanics. After a while, I moved on to this cast iron face vise. It's optimized for woodworking. You mount it flush with the bench top, which is way better for planing, and the jaws have a really big surface area, so they don't ding up your work the way a mechanic's vise can. A vise like this is also quick release, which means you rotate the handle backwards and there's this genius mechanism inside that releases the threads and lets you pull it open to any size you want. This vise is extremely rigid, and it won't rack. Even if you hold a skinny piece of wood just on one side, the jaws stay perfectly parallel. The jaws also open really wide, which is great for face planing smallish boards. When I got it, I didn't think of this as being an iron face vise. I just thought of it as being a woodworking vise. I mean, what else was there? A lot. About a year ago, I built this English joiner's bench, and I wanted to keep costs low. So when it came to the vise, I built a wooden leg vise, mostly because it was cheap. You buy the metal screw, and then you can build all the wooden parts in your shop in about a day. Now, I wasn't looking forward to using this vise because I love my cast iron vise, but I thought, I'll live with it. But it's been a year, and a really funny thing has happened. I don't like this vise. I love it. I actually like it a lot better than the other one. This leg vise offers a hold that's just as solid as the cast iron vise, but because I built it at an angle, I have 8 inches of clamping space clear of the screw. Almost any board can be gripped straight up and down. If I compare that to my iron vise, where I've got these guide bars, well, they get in the way of vertical clamping. To get enough pressure on a wide board, you pretty much have to angle it, which is not great for things like dovetailing. A plumb board is way better for all kinds of joinery. Now, we all know the bars on a cast iron vise are there to prevent racking. And we all know racking's a bad thing. So, does the leg vise rack? You bet it does. And that's a good thing. Sometimes, having a vise that racks can make a part difficult to hold, but a little piece of scrap on the other side of the screw always fixes this problem. Racking allows us to grip tapered and irregular pieces easily, and that matters a lot in furniture making, where lots of parts are tapered, like the legs of tables. Now, an iron vise won't grip these tapered parts without some sort of workaround, because it's too rigid. It can't conform to the piece. A leg vise, or any vise with a little bit of built-in racking, automatically conforms to that taper and holds even irregular pieces firmly. Now, you might think a leg vise is at a disadvantage because it has no quick release. So how do you open it to grip wide boards? Well, you don't. For faces of boards, I use the planing stop, sometimes with a hold fast and doze foot. And this whole setup holds boards great. My leg vise is really only for working on the edges and ends of boards, very rarely the faces. I can do all the other operations because my leg vise is part of a complete work-holding system that's built into the bench. The vise by itself doesn't have to handle everything. A cast iron face vise is not a complete work-holding solution, even though there are some master woodworkers who do most of their work in this kind of vise. There are guys like Paul Sellers, who does almost everything in his cast iron vise, but he expands the capabilities of this vise a lot by combining it with a bar clamp. Using the clamp in a vise method, Paul is able to get longer and wider boards into his vise and work on them where they're supported by the bench. Now, I've experimented with this system a lot, and I just don't like it. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just personal preference. Now, a lot of other woodworkers use a second vise down at the end of the bench, and that's called a tail vise. It's mostly used for holding long pieces of wood for planing and jointing. Now, I don't have a tail vise, so when I need to work on a long piece of wood for jointing the edge, I have to get into some pretty creative work holding with clamps and jigs. On the other hand, my joiner's bench handles everything that I actually do in my woodworking because the vise is integrated into the bench, and the bench can hold any board any way I want with the stuff that's already there. I don't have to bring in any extra gear. So The cast iron vise isn't better than the traditional wooden vise. In some ways, it's actually worse because it's more rigid and more limited. But you've got to wonder, if this vise isn't better than the vise it replaced, how did it come to dominate all of woodworking? How did this become the default vise? Well, the weird thing about that is that new technologies often come to dominate the whole market without being better in any substantial way. I know that's a strange idea, so let me give you an example. When I was a kid, we listened to music on CDs, and they were replacing vinyl left and right, and vinyl was this old, outdated format. That's the way your parents listened to music. But when you think about CDs, they were really not a good format for storing and listening to music. They were fragile, they just disintegrate over time whether you play them or not. And the early CD players were really expensive. They skipped very easily, they didn't work in cars, and they weren't portable. You couldn't take them for a walk. If you wanted to play music in your car or take it with you outside, you had to copy it onto a cassette tape, another supposedly old and outdated technology. In a lot of ways, CDs were really not a good format. On the other hand, vinyl is actually a very durable format. It lasts a long time, you can archive it, it's much cheaper to buy, turntables are cheaper than CD players, and they sound great. The one advantage CDs had over records is that they were smaller. CD stands for compact disc. And that was the selling point. They were compact. In a weird way, that was actually the only selling point. And it seems like that one small advantage shouldn't be enough to get people to ditch their vinyl collections and invest in a pricey new format. But they did. People all over the world got rid of huge vinyl collections and converted everything over to CD. Why did they do that? Well, a lot of it was because of aggressive marketing. CDs were seen as modern. They looked cool. They still look kind of cool. They were high-tech. CD players read the music off the disc using a laser. A laser! That was some high-tech business in 1991, let me tell you. The other thing is that CDs cost half as much to produce, but they could be sold for twice as much as vinyl. So record companies loved them, and they offered record stores huge incentives to convert their inventory from vinyl to CD. So when you went to the store, you saw fewer and fewer vinyl records and more CDs. People didn't want to get left behind. They wanted to seem modern. So they bought into this new technology, even though it wasn't that good. I bet the shift to metal vises was really similar. By 1900, a lot of wooden vises already used factory-made metal screws. And I'm sure the tool manufacturers were sitting around saying, man, we're making a lot of money off these metal vise screws. How do we make more money? I know, let's make the entire vise. And so, the metal bench vise was born. Now, these have a lot of limitations that we've discussed, but they do have one big advantage. They're portable. And back in a time when there was a lot of carpentry going on, and a lot of trim carpenters were going from job to job and building a little temporary bench on site, well, these vises actually had a big advantage because you could bolt it to your temporary bench, work for a week or two, unbolt it, and just carry it to the next job. The main advantage these vises have is portability, but sometimes that is a big advantage. And all of this was just part of a larger trend in the history of woodwork technology. In the 17th and 18th century, a woodworker would have made a lot of his own tools. He would have gone to a blacksmith or an ironmonger to get the metal bits, and then he would have made the rest of the tool himself. Now, as we move on into the 19th century, a lot of those craftsman-made tools were replaced by factory-made tools, like this one. This has the same design that a woodworker would have already been familiar with, but it was completely made in a factory, and it was relatively cheap to purchase. As we get to the end of the 19th and into the 20th century, these traditional tools were replaced by really modern tools, like this one. These are tools that you couldn't have made in your own shop. You can't make a cast iron plane in your backyard. I would have done it by now if it were possible. And this was a really important shift because this signaled the change from the woodworker being a largely independent craftsman who made a lot of his own tools to a craftsman who was almost totally dependent on a system of factories and companies to supply him with the tools that he needed to do his day-to-day work. And this drive to modernize has a lot to do with why this vise became the vise. Nobody likes to seem outdated, especially professionally. No one wants to be the old-fashioned guy on the job site. That probably has a lot to do with why these vices came to dominate the whole market. And there are a lot of advantages to this design. I mean, you can just buy it, you don't have to make it, and it's really easy to just bolt it to your bench and get going. I used this vise for years before I realized there was even anything else to care about, so I'm glad these exist. But my experience with a wooden leg vise does make me wonder, what else is out there? What other capabilities a vise might have that none of us even knows about? Because there are so many old styles of vise that hardly anybody uses anymore. I mean, a few people use twin screw vices, and a few people use shoulder vices, but not very many. But there are a lot of other ones out there, like English face vices and wagon vices, and a whole bunch of crazy French cabinet makers vices that I've only seen pictures of in books. A lot of these I've never tried. I don't know how they work. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a whole series of videos where I build and try out some of these old designs. A lot of them were around for centuries before they were replaced by this thing, and they must have had some good attributes. So I'm going to make them, run them through their paces, and see what they have to offer to the modern woodworker. It's going to be a whole series, and I'm going to call it Vice Squad, because I'm clever. And before I go, I am always talking about my patrons and how they make all of this possible, but the one thing I don't talk about often enough is that we have a great discussion board on my Patreon page, just for my patrons, and it is amazing, because all the people who are there are patrons. They pay a little bit every month to be there, so there are no bots, no trolls, and no jerks. Just enthusiastic, excited people, knowledgeable people who want to help each other with their woodwork. And this month, I would like to highlight Michael Carmen. He's my patron who just built this amazing bench. And what's really impressive about it, I mean, besides the fact that it's sturdy and square and really beautiful, is that he's a pretty new woodworker. This is one of his early projects. And what's great is while he was making it, he got a lot of encouragement and a lot of really good advice from the other patrons on the board. That's what I see all the time when I go on there. I just see knowledgeable, energetic people encouraging each other and giving each other good advice. And maybe you'd like to get in on that too. If you'd like to, go on over to patreon.com/RexKruger and you can see about all the rewards I offer for the people who make this content possible. I'll be back in a couple of weeks with another installment in Vice Squad, and next week I'll have another woodworking project. I'm not sure what, but it'll be great. And I really hope you'll join me. Thanks for watching.